Our power is perception, not reality. This is the first truth that separates those who rule from those who are ruled. Look closely at the world around you. Men and women rise not because they are the strongest, the wisest, or even the most deserving. They rise because others believe they are unshakable. Confidence, my friend, is not about the truth that hides in your chest. It is about the image you project into the eyes of the world. The masses do not measure your soul. They measure your stance, your tone, your presence. And once they believe you are certain, they will treat you as though you cannot be questioned, even when you are filled with doubt inside. Consider this: a leader does not need to know every answer, but he must never appear uncertain. A man who hesitates before he speaks may be more intelligent, more thoughtful, even more capable, yet he will lose authority to a man who speaks swiftly and with conviction, even if that conviction is built upon sand. The world does not reward truth, it rewards appearances. To seem confident is more valuable than to be correct. And so the dangerously confident do not obsess over whether they are right, they obsess over appearing unshakable. For perception itself is the throne upon which power sits. You must learn that people are creatures of sight before they are creatures of thought. They believe the eyes before they believe the mind. A steady gaze can outweigh an honest argument. A straight spine can erase 1,000 doubts. Do you understand the danger here? It means that your reality does not matter as much as what others think your reality is. You can be weak, but if you carry yourself like the strong, men will treat you as strong. You can be uncertain, but if you cloak yourself in certainty, others will kneel to that certainty. What they see becomes more powerful than what you are. The dangerously confident use this to their advantage. They know that men rarely search for the truth beneath the surface. Why would they? It is easier to believe in what is visible than to dig into what is hidden. And so perception becomes a weapon sharper than any sword. The world may see you as invincible even when you tremble in silence. They may call you a master even when you are guessing your way through the dark. And once they believe it, they will enforce that belief for you, spreading your reputation like wildfire. Have you ever noticed how rumors of strength grow larger than the strength itself? A man defeats one opponent, and suddenly he is feared by 10 more who never even fought him. A woman speaks with authority once, and suddenly she is treated as a figure to be obeyed. The perception becomes reality, because perception shapes behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. This is why you must guard your image more fiercely than your possessions. You may lose wealth, you may lose friends, you may lose even certainty itself. But if you hold on to the image of confidence, the world will still open doors before you. Do not be fooled by those who preach authenticity as weakness wrapped in virtue. They will tell you to bear your fears, to confess your doubts, to show your trembling heart. But understand, the wolves of this world devour such honesty. They do not pity it, they exploit it. The world is not kind to weakness, it only pretends to be. The man who hides his doubt and moves as though he is certain will rise above the man who reveals every fragile truth. For perception, once again, is the coin of power. And yes, some will say this is deception. But tell me, what is deception if the world accepts it as truth? Is it a lie to appear fearless, when that very appearance makes you fearless in the eyes of others? Is it falsehood to project certainty, if that certainty causes others to follow you willingly? You are not deceiving, you are shaping the stage upon which all men must play. Power is theater, and the actor who plays his role convincingly rules over those who hesitate to perform. Think of generals who lead armies. Do you believe every commander is free from fear before a battle? No. Their hearts beat as fast as any soldier's, but the general who shows fear infects his men with doubt. The general who masks fear with confidence infects his men with courage. Perception cascades down through the ranks, and the illusion of certainty becomes an army's backbone. Even kings have trembled in private chambers, yet to their courts they appeared carved from stone. And because they appeared so, the illusion held their throne intact. Confidence, therefore, is not measured by your feelings but by your performance. It is the armor you wear before stepping into the arena, and when you wear it well, no one will dare test if it is real. The dangerously confident know that perception must be rehearsed like a play. Every gesture, every word, every pause must reflect control, not perfection. Control. For perfection invites envy, but control demands respect. The illusion of calm under fire, the illusion of certainty under chaos, the illusion of strength under pressure. These illusions become the truth others believe, and in time, belief itself becomes the foundation of your power. You may wonder, is there not a risk in building your strength upon perception? But I say this: the risk lies not in illusion, but in transparency. The man who shows his heart too openly will be torn apart before he has the chance to rise. The man who shows only what strengthens him, only what commands respect, will rise far above even those more capable than himself. The world does not weigh ability in the scales of justice, It weighs appearances in the scales of influence, and influence is the only true currency of power. So remember this, and engrave it upon your mind. Men believe what they see, not what they cannot see. If you must tremble, tremble in secret. If you must doubt, doubt in silence. But when you step into the world, step as though your shadow itself dares not betray you. Appear certain, appear fearless, appear powerful, and you will be treated as such, no matter the storm raging within you. Control through fearless demeanor is the second principle of dangerous confidence. Understand that men are not ruled by reason as much as they are ruled by emotion. Fear, hesitation, doubt. These are contagions spreading silently from one soul to another until they weaken entire armies, entire nations, entire rooms. Yet the antidote to this plague is singular. The man who shows no hesitation infects others with his certainty. The appearance of fearlessness is not merely protection for yourself. It becomes domination over all who watch you. Picture a gathering where uncertainty weighs upon the air. The crowd shifts nervously, eyes darting, voices low. No one dares to speak first for fear of saying the wrong thing. Then one man steps forward, his voice steady, his presence unmoved, his eyes refusing to waver. In that instant, the atmosphere bends to him. What has he done? Nothing but show fearlessness. Yet that nothing is everything. For the fearless demeanor seizes control where logic and talent falter. It is not the wisest who leads in such a moment, nor the most skilled. It is the one who dares to act as though fear itself has no claim upon him. Men mistake fearlessness for truth, for destiny, for leadership. When you remain unshaken while others falter, you create the illusion that you possess knowledge they do not, strength they lack, foresight beyond their comprehension. And so they follow, not because you prove superiority, but because you embodied it. Control is never seized through argument, it is seized through demeanor. Appear calm where others panic, bold where others hesitate, resolved where others waver, and the world will yield to you as though you were chosen by fate itself. Consider how fear operates. A trembling hand, a darting eye, a restless stance, all reveal to the world that the mind behind them is unsettled. Once others glimpse this, they begin to doubt you, and worse, they begin to mirror you. Fear grows not because of reason, but because it multiplies through observation. The man who resists fear's outward signs, who forces his body to remain still, his face composed, his voice steady, becomes a wall against which fear breaks. The masses see in this wall, rally behind it, desperate to borrow its strength. And so the man who appears fearless becomes the pillar of control, even when inside he quakes as much as any other. Think of a battlefield. Soldiers are terrified, for death waits at every corner. They glance toward their leader. If his face is pale, if his commands falter, if his eyes betray doubt, then their courage collapses, and the army scatters before the enemy even strikes. But if the same leader holds his posture, his voice carrying firm and unbroken, his gaze fixed upon victory as though defeat were impossible, then courage revives in the hearts of his men. They march not because the danger has lessened, but because their leader's demeanor convinces them it can be conquered. Thus battles are won not by swords alone, but by the fearless mask of the commander. This is no different in the chambers of politics, the halls of business, or the court of daily life. The one who speaks with calm authority during crisis commands attention, while the one who stammers, even with the best ideas, is ignored. You must understand this cruelty. People trust confidence over competence. They would rather follow a man who appears unshaken than a man who is truly skilled but uncertain. Therefore, the art you must master is not the elimination of fear itself, but the concealment of fear beneath an iron demeanor. Do not think this comes naturally. Even lions feel fear, but they do not show it. The performance of fearlessness is a discipline, a craft to be rehearsed. It is the straightening of the back when instinct tells you to bow. It is the steady tone when your voice wishes to tremble. It is the still hand when every muscle aches to fidget. Each gesture you control is a declaration to the world that you are master of yourself, and he who masters himself is seen as fit to master others. Your demeanor must tell a story that words alone cannot tell. When you walk into a room, your stride must be deliberate, as though the space belongs to you. When you speak, your tone must be even, never rushed, never pleading, for pleading is the music of weakness. When you meet the gaze of others, let it linger long enough to unsettle, but not so long as to appear desperate. Every detail of your bearing whispers to the crowd, here stands one who cannot be shaken, and once they believe you cannot be shaken, they will not dare to shake you. This is the secret of control. Fearless demeanor manipulates not only how others see you, but how they feel in your presence. A room of uncertainty will silence itself before a man who projects certainty. A gathering of rivals will hesitate before striking against a figure who appears untouchable. Even enemies hesitate when confronted with a face that betrays no weakness, for men prefer to fight those who already look defeated. Show no cracks, and you will find that many conflicts resolve themselves before they begin, for intimidation is the child of fearlessness. Yet remember, the goal is not to banish fear within yourself, but to govern its appearance. Fear is human, unavoidable, inescapable. But if you surrender to its outward signs, you surrender control. To cloak it, to carry it within without letting it spill onto your face or your movements, that is the art. It is not the absence of fear that makes men powerful, but the refusal to let fear be seen. And once others are convinced that you are beyond fear, they will follow you into storms they would never face alone. The masses long for someone who looks certain when they are lost. They long for someone who acts composed when they are drowning in doubt. By embodying this, you provide them with a compass, and in doing so, you seize command. Control is never granted to the hesitant, it is claimed by the fearless, or rather by those who appear fearless. And once it is claimed, it becomes self-perpetuating, for the belief of others strengthens your own resolve, until the mask of confidence becomes the face itself. Thus, the art of calculated risk is the third pillar of dangerous confidence. Many confuse boldness with recklessness, as if the fearless are simply gamblers throwing dice against fate. But the dangerously confident understand that every act of daring must be a performance carefully staged. True confidence is never about blind leaps into the abyss. It is about stepping forward in such a way that the world believes you are leaping, while in truth, you have already ensured the ground beneath you is firm. Observe how men admire the bold. They see someone charge into uncertainty, and they assume he possesses courage beyond comprehension. They applaud, they envy, they follow. Yet what they do not see is the hidden preparation, the unseen calculation, the way the bold have stacked the odds long before taking the stage. The art lies not in recklessness, but in making the dangerous appear effortless, in convincing the world that you act without fear when in reality you act with knowledge. The audience must believe you gambled everything, but you must know you risked almost nothing. Consider a ruler who declares war. To his enemies it seems madness. To his subjects it looks like bravery. Yet the wise ruler does not march blindly into chaos. He has already secured allies in secret, counted the weaknesses of his foe, ensured that even if the first strike falters, the second will succeed. He appears reckless, but his recklessness is theater. The masses, seeing only the surface, cry out in awe at his daring, never knowing that the outcome was rigged in his favor long before the first sword was drawn. This principle applies far beyond thrones and battlefields. In business, in politics, in the courts of society, men and women alike rise because they appear daring. They take the stage, they make bold moves, they speak with unshakable certainty while others hesitate. But behind closed doors they prepare meticulously. They calculate the risks so precisely that by the time they appear in public, the chance of failure has already been strangled to almost nothing. And yet, the illusion of danger remains, and it is this illusion that fuels admiration, respect, even fear. Understand this well: the world admires those who risk. It despises the coward who hides in safety, but it quickly destroys the fool who gambles recklessly and loses. Therefore, you must occupy the narrow, dangerous line between caution and madness. Appear daring, so daring that others envy your courage, yet never expose yourself to the ruin that devours the truly reckless. The crowd will see a lion leaping into danger, while in reality you are a hunter who has studied every step, every angle, every weakness of the prey before you pounced. Think of the card player at the table. The inexperienced gambler throws his wealth onto the board with trembling hands, praying that fortune favors him. The dangerously confident player, however, plays as though every move is instinctive, effortless, inevitable. Yet he has already read the faces of his opponents, counted the cards, and calculated the odds. His victory seems to come from raw courage, but in truth it comes from preparation so subtle that the crowd mistakes it for natural brilliance. That is the essence of calculated risk. The lesson here is simple but brutal: never show your preparation, never reveal the calculations that guard your steps. To the world, it must appear as if you simply dare what others fear. Your victories will seem greater when men believe you risked everything, though in truth you risked almost nothing. Let them call you reckless, for it will only make your success appear larger. Let them marvel at your audacity, for it will blind them to your strategy. The mask of daring will conceal the armor of planning, and by the time they realize the truth, you will already be untouchable. Even in failure, calculated risk preserves your power, for when you lose after appearing bold, the crowd does not call you a fool. They call you unlucky. They admire you still for daring what they would not dare. And in time, they forget the failure and remember only the image of courage. But if you expose your caution, if you reveal that your steps were hesitant, then every failure brands you as weak, every stumble strips you of authority. This is why the performance of risk is as important as the preparation itself. You must dare loudly, but plan quietly. Do not think this is mere deception. It is the very nature of leadership. Men crave boldness because it reassures them. They want to believe that someone among them dares to step where they cannot. If you supply this illusion, they will grant you their loyalty, their admiration, even their obedience. But if you reveal hesitation, they will strip you of power before you ever had the chance to wield it. The art of calculated risk is not only about protecting yourself, it is about feeding the hunger of those who long to see a fearless figure, even if that fearlessness is nothing but the shadow cast by your preparation. There will always be those who leap blindly, mistaking chaos for courage. They will shine briefly, like fire, before burning to ash. Do not envy them, for their glory is short-lived. Instead, become the fire that never dies, because you control its fuel. Make every daring act appear natural, inevitable, unstoppable, and the world will believe you are carved from a different stone. They will not know the sleepless nights you spent rehearsing, the countless details you accounted for, the quiet calculations that turn chance into certainty. They will only see the surface, and the surface will be magnificent. Remember, the masses cannot distinguish between genuine risk and calculated display. To them, the appearance is enough. If you appear fearless, if you appear daring, they will believe you command destiny itself. They will tell stories of your bravery, magnify your reputation, and spread your legend. In their eyes, you will become the embodiment of confidence, the very figure they secretly wish they could be. And all the while, you will know the truth, that your confidence was never recklessness, but the mastery of making danger your servant rather than your master. Commanding respect, not pleading for it, is the final law of dangerous confidence. Respect is never granted freely. It is seized by those who demand it through their presence, their demeanor, and their unwavering refusal to bow. The weak beg for validation, asking the world to notice them, to acknowledge them, to give them permission to rise. But those who command respect walk as though recognition is inevitable, as though the crown of authority already sits upon their heads. The difference between the two is the difference between the servant and the sovereign, between the forgotten and the feared. Understand this: when you beg for respect, you lower yourself. You confess through your actions that you are beneath those whose approval you seek. You signal to the world that your worth depends on the judgment of others. And once you do this, they will never see you as equal. They may give you polite words, they may offer you crumbs of recognition, but in their hearts, they will mark you as one who kneels, and those who kneel are never allowed to rise. To command respect is to create an aura of inevitability. You do not ask to be seen. You arrange yourself so that you cannot be ignored. This is not achieved through noise or desperate display, but through quiet certainty. Your words are measured, your movements deliberate, your presence heavy with authority. When you speak, you do not raise your voice to beg for attention. Instead, you speak as though silence were the natural state of the room until you chose to break it. The dangerously confident do not fight for respect. They embody it, and the world has no choice but to yield. Look to history, and you will find countless rulers, generals, and thinkers who commanded respect long before they held official power. They were not always kings, but they carried themselves like kings, and so men treated them as such. Respect is not about titles, wealth, or crowns. It is about the energy you project, the unshakable certainty that you belong above the rest. Others sense it, often without knowing why, and they submit to it instinctively. This is the hidden architecture of power. People respect those who act as though respect is already theirs. The mistake of the timid is believing that kindness alone earns respect. They believe that by pleasing others, by making themselves agreeable, they will be rewarded with esteem. But kindness without strength is interpreted not as virtue, but as weakness. It invites exploitation, not admiration. The dangerously confident may choose kindness, but it is never the foundation of their respect. Their respect is commanded first through strength, through presence, through the refusal to be diminished. Once that respect is secured, kindness becomes a gift that magnifies their authority rather than undermines it. Consider how predators move through the wild. The lion does not roar for approval. He does not ask the gazelle to recognize his power. His very presence commands respect because he moves with certainty, because every creature knows instinctively that he is master of his domain. In the same way, the dangerously confident walk into rooms with the unspoken message that they belong at the center, that their presence alters the very gravity of the space. And because others believe it, it becomes true. This principle holds even in the smallest interactions. Imagine two men entering a negotiation. One sits nervously, eager to please, rushing to show agreement, his words soft with apology. The other sits calmly, unhurried, speaking little but with authority when he does. Which man do you think receives better terms? The first may be more intelligent, more skilled, more deserving, yet he has surrendered the battlefield before the negotiation even begins. The second, by sheer command of demeanor, bends the room to his will. Respect is won not by begging, but by making others feel they must give it or risk diminishing themselves. You must understand that respect grows stronger when withheld from the unworthy. If you lavish attention on everyone, if you rush to please all, you cheapen your own presence. But when you make your attention scarce, when you measure your words, when you reserve your approval, you create hunger in others. They long for your recognition, and in that longing, they elevate your stature. Respect flows not from giving yourself freely, but from holding yourself with restraint, as though your presence itself is a treasure too costly to be squandered. This is why silence is often more powerful than speech. The man who rushes to justify himself, to explain, to persuade, confesses weakness. He shows that he fears being misunderstood, that he needs others to agree in order to feel secure. The dangerously confident are never desperate for agreement. They allow silence to stretch, they allow others to fill the space with nervous words, and in that silence, their power grows. To command respect is to know that you are not obligated to prove yourself. Your mere existence is proof enough. Respect also demands boundaries. The man who allows others to trample upon him, who accepts every insult, who tolerates every slight, forfeits his authority. The dangerously confident do not beg to be treated well. They establish from the first moment that disrespect will not be tolerated. They do not need to shout. They do not need to rage. A single cold glance, a deliberate withdrawal of presence, a quiet but firm refusal. These are enough to remind others that respect is the price of entry into their world. And once the price is set, those who value your presence will pay it gladly. You will discover that the more you command respect, the less you must struggle to maintain it. For respect, once rooted, grows on its own. Others will guard it for you, repeating stories of your certainty, your composure, your refusal to kneel. They will spread your reputation even in your absence, and this reputation will precede you, softening the ground before you arrive. By the time you step into a room, the air will already be prepared to bend to your presence. That is the true reward of commanding respect. It multiplies beyond your own efforts until it becomes self-sustaining.